This is Countdown to Economic Collapse, December 11th, 2011. I'm David John Sponheim, running for president in 2012 for America's Third Party. Okay, so we've got MF Global went bankrupt, $46 billion liquidated, $1.2 billion missing. Jon Corzine, former governor of New Jersey, being questioned by Senate subcommittee hearings. His connection to Gary Gensler, the chairman of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, possibly a link. He has recused himself, Gary has, claiming that he's not responsible for anything that happened with MF Global, when in fact something did happen. Insider trading at the highest level, and your president is just sitting back playing golf, kicking back with his loafers on, watching TV. That's the problem. You know, last week the Senate met behind closed doors to discuss Senate Bill 1867. You didn't hear about it on the news. You didn't hear about it because it deals with illegal detainment of Americans in the event there is a potential war. The government just authorized $662 billion for the military, meaning that we continue to spend out recklessly in lieu of major budget shortfalls. And the fact that we are not beating our balanced budget means that we are continuing to go deeper and deeper into debt. Now, what does that mean to the average American? Probably not a lot. But if you're a person who is connected to America's political system, it means your job. Because the people that are going to be named and blamed for this crisis are the Democrats and Republicans. They're going to lose their jobs. The American people are not going to sit back. I know this. They're not going to sit back and watch these cronies continue to lie to them every single cycle of an election. Every single time they hear these people talk about all the things they're going to do, now they're going to apparently extend a tax cut for payroll taxes. The Republicans are adding on a pipeline. They're trying to add a gas pipeline to this. The Democrats are now wondering, will Barack Obama veto this or let it go through? Because the bottom line is, these people want to cut $1,000 off of the average person's taxes every year just to get reelected. That's the bone they're throwing the average American. But that's not the average American. The average American isn't middle class anymore. The average American probably doesn't even pay taxes. You see, these people are catering to votes that don't exist. They're catering to people that essentially just want to save $1,000 on their income taxes every year, when in fact our whole nation needs to actually receive more money from its tax base in order to pay some of its debts off while we trim the economic ship that we're riding here. Cutting the waste, trimming the budget, getting rid of fat. And that's something that we can do at the same time we collect a payroll tax. But the Democrats, Republicans want to throw the bone to the American people and say, oh, we're going to extend your cut. You know what this cut involves? 2%, which is 2% off your payroll taxes. It's not that big of a deal. And if you make $50,000, yes, it could give you $1,000 extra in the bank. But don't you think that this country is going bankrupt? Don't you think that our nation needs every tax dollar it can get? Sure, the tax system needs to be reformed, and we want a fair, flat tax at America's Third Party, but granted, the tax system is designed to work, not just be used as a bargaining tool to get reelected. So I recommend that they raise the cap on payroll taxes from $106,000 to unlimited, which would add more taxes so Social Security could get paid. We wouldn't have a trust fund going belly up in 2027. All these ideas could be integrated into a comprehensive, fair, flat tax reform. But do you see Barack Obama talking about that? No. Herman Cain talked about it, but now where's Herman Cain? Herman Cain's gone. They got rid of him. They made sure that people thought that he was guilty of something. So we are now faced with a third party carrying the banner of a fair, flat tax, and that is exactly what I'm doing. I had the 10-10 idea before Herman Cain had his 9-9 plan. And we want to tax people only that make over $100,000 a year. And that gives the broad base of the middle class a big break. It's a restructuring of the plan to make it fair and flat for all. And I think that's going to be a big boost for our economy. You see, as our government gets rid of the waste and starts to run leaner and meaner and more efficient, we'll also have enough money to seed new inventions, new innovations, and to create the jobs that Barack Obama claims that the government shouldn't create. Increase enterprise building Increase the idea of a microloan program, something that we've talked about before. $1,000 to anybody who wants it if they're willing to pay it back with $40 interest in 6 months. You can get $1,000 the next day if you can return $40 in interest. And that idea will build small businesses and make the requirements to get that loan much smaller than they currently are. You see, right now you have to be coming from Pakistan and a refugee to get enough money to buy a gas station or a liquor store. The idea of illegal aliens sucking out of our Social Security income, a tremendous amount of money going to non-U.S. citizens who've just been awarded green cards from Barack Obama. They're now making all kinds of loans to these people. Social Security income goes to them. There's Section 8 housing, food stamps going to illegals and non-U.S. citizens. That has to come to a halt if we're going to get the kind of budget control that we need in 2013. You see, I am a frugality expert. I understand how to make this nation run efficiently. And it won't cost you that much individually to do it, to make that migration to a third party. It'll be fairly simple. We're aware of some things going on right now with the Occupy Wall Street movement being controlled by the left. And I show you an article right now out of Seattle that shows you that the labor movement is nesting right next to the Occupy movement. And exactly like I've been talking about, this is an effort to create civil unrest in America. Check this out.
Okay, just as we predicted, the arm of unions have latched on to the Occupy Seattle movement. In this article in the Seattle Times just published before the 99% started protesting in the Westlake Park area of Seattle, volunteers from Working Washington went door to door looking for these people. They visited more than 100,000 homes this summer and got a lot of disenfranchised people to gather together. Working Washington is a part of the wing of the SEIU. Within a few weeks, Working Washington was indistinguishably intertwined with the Occupy movement. Now, their agenda is to protect labor unions, and your tax dollars are paying for a lot of the labor union dues.
As you can see, they're up to no good. The labor unions, the SEIU, is trying to get everybody they can, innocent people, involved in a scheme to control politics in America, to create civil unrest in cities, to create the climate for martial law. And now with this bill signing of Senate Bill 1867, we're seeing that our rights could very well erode again. When the government meets behind closed doors, we got to wonder, what the heck are they doing? We didn't sign on to this. So we need a new political party to emerge in America that will be representative of the American people, common people like you and I. We don't need these fat cats in Washington anymore. That is the problem. Imagine the Fed, Ben Bernanke, meeting and saying that he didn't loan out $16 trillion over the past 3 years. Well, that's happened. Check this out. They're trying to cover what they did up, and that's a serious problem.
Okay, we are currently looking at a Forbes article that states that Bernanke claims there's no secret about the bank bailout. And it was only $1.5 trillion, he claims. Okay, we're going to track that $16 trillion bailout. We went to a WordPress blog someone has posted where it states, have you heard about the $16 trillion bailout the Federal Reserve handed to the too-big-to-fail banks? We're going to take a look at an actual link that is direct to the GAO audit of the Federal Reserve that was forced by the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act. Let's go to that link right now. Okay, let's take a quick look. The amount of money that transferred during that time period. Borrowing companies, Citigroup, $2,513 billion. Morgan Stanley, $2,041 billion. That's $2 trillion, folks. Merrill Lynch, $1.9 trillion. Bank of America, $1.3 trillion. The total, as you can see, is $16 trillion. So Ben Bernanke is lying to the American people, and this is definitely something that needs to be looked into further.
We're beyond getting accountability from the Fed. Forget auditing the Fed. We need to end the Fed. They're done. They should not regulate or monitor or create currency and set value to it. There is no constitutional precedent for that in America. Now recently, with the expansion of credit by the Federal Reserve and 5 other central banks offering the European Union tons of money, we see a money grab going on. $51 billion was grabbed immediately by the European nations at 0.59% interest. Now, in Keynesian economics, that's called a liquidity trap, where money just ends up getting taken to hold on to that money, not necessarily to fuel new economic activity, but people hoard it. And especially in times of war or an economic collapse, more of that hoarding goes on, which freezes that money. So monetarism doesn't work at this time in the game. And that means that we have to start rethinking why the budgets of these European nations are essentially overcharging, why they are constantly going into deeper debt. And that's something that each individual nation is solving. But it will affect our nation. Now, David Cameron just refused to sign a treaty with 26 other nations in Europe that would have established more stability for the English economy. It's interesting that the English economy is now going solo, and we'll see what happens with that. It won't affect their defense and their union to defend the European nations, but it will affect England's economy. We'll see how that affects the US economy as well. So this is your chance to get started this year and join the online revolution. It's going on right now. Every weeknight, 6 to 8 Pacific time, we do our chat show on Blog TV. Check that out, get involved, give us your ideas, and we'll integrate them into our plan and our platform for the future for America. I'm David John Sponheim, and I support this message.
Check us out at americasthirdparty.com.
ATP, you and me.